Good morning, everyone. In our previous sessions, we've explored three crucial functions of management: planning, organizing, and leading. Today, we're going to complete our journey through the fundamental management functions by diving into the fourth and final function: controlling. To refresh our memory, we started with planning, where we learned how managers set objectives and determine the best courses of action to achieve them. We then moved on to organizing, which showed us how managers structure and coordinate resources, both human and material, to execute those plans effectively. Most recently, we discussed leading, where we explored how managers motivate, guide, and influence their team members to work towards organizational goals. Now, imagine you're steering a ship. Planning is like charting your course. Organizing is preparing your crew and resources, and leading is inspiring everyone to work together toward the destination. But how do you know if you're actually on course? How do you determine if adjustments are needed? This is where controlling comes in. It's like the navigation system that helps ensure we're moving in the right direction and making progress as planned. The controlling function serves as the feedback mechanism in management. It's what enables managers to monitor performance, compare it against standards, and make necessary corrections to keep the organization on track. Without controlling, the other three functions would be like sailing blind. You might have a great plan, a well-organized crew, and inspired team members, but no way to know if you're actually reaching your goals. In today's session, we'll explore what controlling really means in management, why it's essential for organizational success, how it connects with and supports the other management functions, the key elements of the controlling process, common tools and techniques used in controlling. Understanding the controlling function will complete your foundation in management fundamentals and give you the tools to ensure your organization stays on course toward its objectives. Let's take a moment to understand what we mean when we say controlling is the process of monitoring, comparing, and correcting work performance. Think of it like being a coach for a sports team. To help us understand this definition, let's break it down into its three key components. First, let's talk about monitoring. Imagine you're watching your favorite cooking show where the chef is preparing a complex dish. The chef doesn't just throw ingredients together and hope for the best. They constantly check the temperature, taste the food, and observe how it's cooking. In management, monitoring means actively watching and measuring what's happening in your organization. This could be tracking sales numbers, measuring customer satisfaction, or observing how quickly your team completes projects. The second component is comparing. Going back to our cooking show example, the chef compares what they're seeing with what they know the dish should look like at each stage. They might think, the sauce should be thicker by now, or the color isn't quite right yet. In business, managers compare actual performance against predetermined standards or goals. If your team was supposed to process 100 customer orders per day, you compare the actual number processed against this target. Finally, we have correcting. Let's say our chef notices the sauce is too thin or the temperature is too high. They don't just observe these issues, they take action. They might add a thickening agent or lower the heat. Similarly, in management, correcting means taking action to fix any deviations from the planned performance. If your team is only processing 80 orders instead of the target 100, you might need to provide additional training, adjust the workflow, or add more resources. Now, let's put it all together. These three elements work as a continuous cycle. You're constantly monitoring what's happening, comparing it to what should be happening, and making corrections when needed. It's like having a GPS system for your organization. It tells you where you are, compares it to where you should be, and helps you adjust your route if you're off course. The beauty of this process is that it's not just about finding problems, it's about ensuring success. When performance exceeds expectations, controlling helps us understand what's working well so we can replicate that success elsewhere. When we fall short, it helps us identify and address issues before they become major problems. Controlling in the context of organization and management is about ensuring that activities, behaviors, and results within an organization align with objectives, specifications, and short-term and long-term plans. It involves measuring performance, taking action to achieve desired outcomes, maintaining compliance with essential rules and policies, and ensuring consistency of objectives and accomplishments across an organization. Effective controlling helps regulate activities and behaviors to keep the organization on track. All right, let's break controlling step by step to really understand the control function in management. At the center, we have control. Think of this as the core process we're examining. Control is all about making sure that an organization's activities and outcomes match up with its goals and plans. It's like a thermostat in a house, constantly checking the temperature and making adjustments to keep things at the desired level. Now, let's look at each of those arrows radiating out from the center. These represent the key ways that the control function achieves its purpose. Regulates behavior. One major aspect of control is influencing how people in the organization act. It sets guidelines and boundaries for conduct. For example, a company might have policies about expense reporting, dress codes, or customer interactions. Control makes sure people follow these behavioral standards. Regulates activities. Beyond behavior, control also oversees the actual work being done. It monitors ongoing projects, production levels, sales figures, and so on. If a marketing campaign is underperforming, control processes would flag that issue. The idea is to make sure all activities are furthering the organization's objectives. Ensures adjustment or conformity to specifications. When control spots a problem, it doesn't just identify it, it fixes it. If a product isn't meeting quality specifications, control would ensure that production is tweaked to get things back on track. It's about upholding standards and adapting when needed. Ensures adjustment or conformity to objectives. At the highest level, control keeps the organization true to its overall mission and goals. If a company's objective is to increase market share, control will steer resources and efforts toward that end. It prevents the organization from drifting away from its core purposes. So in essence, control is the watchdog and the steering wheel. It's constantly on the lookout for anything that's out of line with plans, policies, specifications, or objectives. And when it finds an issue, it takes corrective action. All managers should exercise control, even if their units are performing well. Without regular check-ins and performance evaluations, important nuances might be missed, like one-star performer carrying the team or unsustainable work habits leading to burnout. Effective controls guide activities to achieve goals. For a product development team, this could mean weekly progress reports, milestone check-ins, and user testing to steer efforts, identify roadblocks, and ensure quality. But controls should also gauge softer factors underpinning performance, like role clarity and employee support. Team retrospectives can create space for honest dialogue and continuous improvement. Control is about more than numbers. It's about creating visibility, alignment, and accountability at all levels to keep everyone moving together toward shared objectives. It's a continuous, holistic process integral to organizational success. Controlling is the crucial management function that keeps an organization on track to achieve its goals. Just as a ship needs a rudder, an organization needs controlling processes to navigate the complexities of business. Without effective controls, all other management efforts would fall short. Planning would be futile with no way to ensure follow-through. Organizing and staffing would lack accountability for resource use and performance. Leaders would be flying blind, unable to course-correct when challenges arise. But controlling is more than just a stabilizing force. It's also an early warning system. By regularly monitoring performance against standards, controls can flag issues before they spiral, whether in sales, quality, or morale. This allows proactive management, adapting plans and resources as needed. In a shifting business landscape, such agility is key to staying competitive. An organization's success truly hinges on the effectiveness of its controls. Now, let's discuss why controlling function is important. At its core, controlling is all about making sure an organization achieves what it sets out to do. Controlling is the function that ties plans to results. Without it, an organization would be like a driver without a map. You might eventually reach your destination, but the journey would be full of wrong turns and wasted time. Controlling keeps everyone pointed in the right direction. Example: let's say a manufacturing company sets a goal to increase production by 20% this quarter to meet growing demand. The production manager creates a detailed plan outlining the steps to reach this target. As the quarter progresses, the controlling process is in full swing. The manager regularly checks production numbers against the plan. At the halfway point, she notices they're only at a 10% increase, behind schedule. Through root cause analysis, a controlling tool, she discovers that equipment downtime is higher than expected. She takes corrective action by reassigning maintenance staff to focus on preventive upkeep. She also rebalances the production schedule to make up for lost time. By the end of the quarter, they've not only met the 20% increase goal, but exceeded it by 2%, thanks to the efficiency gains from controlling. The organization ends up well-positioned to capture the increased demand. The second importance, as we see here, is judging accuracy of standards. Let's say a call center sets a standard of handling 40 calls per agent per day. Through controlling, managers might discover this target is unrealistic, given the increasing complexity of customer inquiries. They can then revise the standard to 30 calls per day, focusing more on call quality and resolution rates. Third is making efficient use of resources. Consider a marketing department with a $100,000 quarterly budget and a team of 5 specialists. Controlling helps track if the budget is being allocated effectively across different campaigns and ensures each team member's skills are being utilized optimally without redundancy or idle time. The fourth importance is improving employee motivation. Controlling isn't just about checking up on employees. It actually helps boost their motivation. When employees know their work will be evaluated fairly and their good performance will be recognized, they're more likely to give their best effort. For example, in a sales organization, when employees see that their sales targets and achievements are being tracked systematically, and top performers are being acknowledged, it motivates them to excel and establish their position in the company. The fifth importance is ensuring order and discipline. This aspect helps maintain a professional and efficient workplace environment. For instance, in a manufacturing facility, controlling helps prevent issues like unauthorized absences, delays in production, or misuse of company resources. If a worker consistently arrives late or a team member isn't cooperating with others, the controlling function helps identify and address these issues promptly, maintaining workplace discipline. The fifth and final importance of controlling: facilitating coordination in action. This importance emphasizes how controlling helps different departments work together smoothly to achieve organizational goals. Think of it like an orchestra, where each section needs to play in harmony. In business, departments don't operate in isolation. They're interdependent. Let's look at a clear business example. Imagine a smartphone manufacturing company. the sales department commits to delivering 10,000 phones to retailers next month. Through controlling, managers can monitor if production is keeping pace with sales commitments, check if components are being ordered in time by procurement, ensure quality control is maintaining standards at the required speed, track if warehousing and logistics are ready for distribution. If any deviations are found, like production falling behind schedule, controlling helps. First, identify the issue quickly. Second, find out why it's happening. Maybe there's a component shortage. Then, take corrective action. Expedite component delivery or adjust production schedules. And ensure all departments adjust their plans accordingly. This creates a synchronized workflow where each department's activities align with others, much like gears working together in a machine. Now, let's look at the diagram in the slide, which shows us a really important relationship in management, how planning and controlling work together. Look at the diagram. You can see these yellow boxes showing planning, control, and organizing. Notice how they're all connected with dotted lines? This isn't by accident. Planning and controlling are like two sides of the same coin. You simply can't have one without the other. Let me explain why. Imagine you're planning a road trip. Planning is like mapping out your route before you start. That's essential, right? But what happens during the journey? That's where control comes in. You need to keep checking if you're on the right road, if you're making good time, and if you need to make any adjustments. Without these checks, without control, your carefully planned route doesn't mean much if you get lost. Looking at our business context, planning sets the standards and goals. Maybe it's a sales target or production quota. Control then acts like your GPS, constantly checking if you're meeting these targets. If you're not, it helps identify why and what needs to change. See the feedback arrow in the diagram? This is crucial. When control shows us something isn't working as planned, this feedback loops back to both planning and organizing, allowing us to make necessary adjustments. Maybe our original plans need tweaking, or perhaps we need to reorganize our resources. Think of it this way. Planning is looking forward. This is what we want to achieve. Control is looking backward. Are we achieving what we planned? Together, they ensure we're not just setting goals, but actually reaching them. Now, let's look at the three different types of control in management. Let me break these down in a way that makes practical sense. First, we have feed-forward control. Think of this as our prevention is better than cure approach. This happens before any work starts. It's all about planning ahead to prevent problems. You know how your phone gives you a warning when your battery is getting low? That's feed-forward control. It's warning you before you actually run out of battery. In business, this means creating policies and procedures that help prevent problems. Yes, it takes time and money to set these up, but it saves a lot of headaches later. Moving on to concurrent control. This is happening right now, in real time. It's like having a quality inspector on the production line checking products as they're being made. The beauty of concurrent control is that you can fix problems immediately. For example, if you're in a call center and you notice customer service representatives aren't following the proper script, you can correct it right away. It's all about monitoring systems and processes while they're happening. Finally, we have feedback control. This is our looking back type of control. Here, managers are like detectives, looking at what's already happened to make better decisions for the future. It's like analyzing your monthly sales reports or reviewing customer satisfaction surveys. What's interesting about feedback control is that it helps us see patterns. Maybe you notice that sales always dip in certain months, or customer complaints increase during specific times. For example, a manufacturing company might use feed-forward control to set quality standards, concurrent control to monitor production quality in real-time feedback control to review monthly defect rates and make improvements. All right, now that we understand the three types of control, let's look at how control actually works in practice. On the screen, we can see the basic elements in control process, the four key steps that make any control system work. Notice these four colored boxes? These represent the essential elements that every manager needs to pay attention to when implementing control. Whether you're using feed-forward, concurrent, or feedback control that we just discussed, you will always follow these four basic steps. Before we dive deep into each element in our next slides, let me just highlight that each of these steps, from establishing standards to taking action, requires careful managerial decision-making. Think of it as a systematic approach to ensuring things go as planned. In our next slides, we'll break down each of these elements and see how they work together to create an effective control process. The first basic element in control process in establishing standards. When we say standards are targets of performance, imagine them as the benchmarks we aim for. These aren't just random numbers, they need to be carefully thought out. It's like setting the bar at the right height. Too high and people get discouraged. Too low and there's no motivation to improve. Now, why do we say it starts at the top of the organization? Because senior management has the big picture. They understand the overall goals and strategy. For example, if a company's goal is to be the market leader in customer service, top management might set a broad standard, like achieve 95% customer satisfaction. But here's where it gets interesting. While it starts at the top, the process doesn't stop there. Every level of employee needs to be involved. Let's say you're a restaurant chain. While top management sets that 95% customer satisfaction goal, kitchen staff might help set standards for food preparation time, servers might input on table service timing, cleaners might contribute to cleanliness standards. Why is this involvement so important? Three key reasons. Frontline employees often know what's realistically achievable. When people help create standards, they feel ownership of them. It combines management's strategic vision with practical operational knowledge. Think about it. Who better to help set a realistic standard for order processing time than the people who process orders every day? Involvement of employees are crucial in establishing standards. Think of performance standards as being set across four key areas. Quantity, how much should be produced. Quality, how good should it be. Time used, how long should it take. Cost, how much should it cost. Let me give you a quick example. In a pizza delivery business, quantity, 100 deliveries per day. Quality, 95% customer satisfaction rate. Time, 40-minute delivery guarantee. Cost, keep food cost under 30% of revenue. When employees from delivery drivers to kitchen staff are involved in setting these standards, they understand them better and are more likely to achieve them. Let's look at the second element in our control process. Measuring performance. Notice that there are three key points here. First, we need to obtain consensus about how to assess performance. This is crucial because everyone needs to agree on how we're going to measure things. Think of it like a sports game. Everyone needs to understand how points are scored before the game starts. The second point tells us that if performance involves multiple activities, measurement must be comprehensive. This makes sense, right? For example, if you're measuring a customer service representative's performance, you can't just look at how many calls they handle. You also need to consider customer satisfaction, accuracy of information provided, and problem resolution rates. Finally, there's an important practical consideration. Measurement is costly, so usefulness of the information must justify the costs. Not everything that can be measured should be measured. For instance, a retail store might decide that tracking every single customer interaction is too expensive and time-consuming compared to the value of that information. Let me give you a quick example. In a sales department, measuring performance might involve number of sales, quantitative, customer feedback ratings, qualitative, sales conversion rates, time spent per customer. But the key is choosing measurements that provide valuable insights without breaking the bank on data collection. When we talked about measuring performance, we mentioned we need consensus on how to assess it. Well, this table shows us exactly how we can gather that information through 4 different sources, and each comes with its own benefits and drawbacks. Let's say you're a restaurant manager measuring service quality. You might use all 4 methods. Personal observations. You're on the floor watching how servers interact with customers. Yes, you get first-hand, unfiltered information, but, as the chart shows, it's time-consuming and might make employees nervous, obtrusive. Statistical reports. These could be your POS system data, showing service times and sales figures. Great for visualizing trends, but as noted, they might miss important subjective factors like customer satisfaction. Oral reports. Quick feedback from daily staff meetings where servers report issues. It's fast, and you get both verbal and nonverbal feedback. But as the chart indicates, this information can't be easily documented. Written reports. Detailed end-of-month performance reports. They're comprehensive and easy to file, but as shown in the drawbacks, they take more time to prepare. The key is using a combination of these sources to get a complete picture when measuring performance. Each source helps fill in the gaps left by the others. Now let's look at the third element in our control process, comparing performance against standards. Looking at our slide, we can see 3 important points about this comparison process. First, the kinds of measurements we have available will affect how we make comparisons. This directly connects back to the different sources of information we just discussed. Second, managers have a critical role here. They must interpret the patterns they see in these comparisons, understanding that some results might be positive while others might be negative. This isn't just about looking at numbers. It's about understanding what those numbers mean. The third point highlights that these comparisons aren't just black and white. Notice how it mentions both subjective and objective measures. This means managers need to consider not just hard data like sales figures, but also less tangible factors like customer satisfaction or employee morale. This step is crucial because it's where we actually see if we're meeting our standards or if there are gaps that need to be addressed. Now we've reached the final and crucial element of the control process, evaluating results and taking action. Let's look at what our slide tells us. First, and this is important, not all results require action. Managers need to evaluate the importance and magnitude of any deviation from standards. In other words, is this difference significant enough to warrant a response? If action is needed, managers must determine what steps to take. This depends on several factors: the diagnostic skills of managers, their ability to analyze the situation, their level of expertise in the area, a review of both the standards and measures to ensure they're appropriate. And here's something interesting. Notice the last point. It's not just about fixing problems. When employees perform better than the standard, they should be recognized and rewarded. This shows that evaluation isn't just about catching what's wrong, but also acknowledging what's right. This final step closes our control process loop, potentially leading us back to adjusting standards if necessary. Now that we understand the basic elements of control, let's look at how control systems operate at different levels of the organization. Looking at our slide, we can see 3 distinct types of control systems. At the top, we have the strategic control system. This is used by top-level management. Think CEOs and executive boards. These leaders are looking at the big picture, making sure the organization is moving in the right direction overall. Moving down, we see the tactical control system, which is used by middle-level managers. These managers are working to implement the strategic decisions made at the top. They're the bridge between high-level strategy and day-to-day operations. Finally, at the base, we have the operational control system. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's used at the lower levels of the organizational hierarchy, dealing with the daily, hands-on activities of the business. Think of it like a pyramid, where each level of control supports the others. The operational level feeds information up to the tactical level, which in turn provides insights to the strategic level. Each has its own focus, but works together to ensure the organization runs smoothly. Let me explain how these control systems actually work in practice. Strategic control systems involve decisions that affect the entire organization. For example, if a company decides to expand into new markets or launch new product lines, these decisions come from the top. Top management looks at broad indicators like market share, return on investment, and overall company growth. At the tactical level, middle managers are implementing these strategic decisions. Let's say the strategic decision was to launch a new product. Middle managers would control things like production schedules, departmental budgets, and marketing campaigns for that product. They're making sure the strategic goals are being carried out effectively. Finally, at the operational level, we're looking at day-to-day activities. Here, supervisors might be monitoring things like daily production quotas, quality control checks, customer service response times, or employee attendance. This is where the actual work gets done and is monitored. Each level has different time frames too. Strategic control looks at long-term goals, tactical at medium-term objectives, and operational at immediate daily targets. Let me explain how these controls differ in scope, moving from narrow to broad as shown in our diagram. Starting with operational controls at the narrow end, these focus on specific tasks and methods used in producing goods and services. This is the most focused level of control, dealing with the nitty-gritty of daily operations. Moving to tactical controls in the middle, we see a broader scope. These controls manage day-to-day organizational functions and how they implement strategy. Notice it includes various types: financial, budgetary, supervisory structure, and human resource controls. We have two main approaches here: bureaucratic control, which is more formal and structured, and commitment, or clan control, which focuses on shared values and goals. At the broadest end, we have strategic controls. These assess how well the organization fits with its external environment and meets long-term objectives. However, there's an important caveat here. These controls become less efficient when environments are uncertain or changing. Think of it like a pyramid where operational controls provide the foundation, tactical controls form the middle layer, and strategic controls sit at the top, each increasing in scope, but decreasing in detail. All right, let's wrap up our discussion on controlling. Controlling is essentially the process of monitoring, comparing, and correcting work performance. As we've learned, it's the final but continuous function of management that ensures everything we've planned actually happens the way it should. Why is controlling important? We've seen 5 key reasons. It helps accomplish organizational goals, helps adapt to environmental changes, helps judge accuracy of standards, ensures efficient use of resources, improves employee motivation, maintains order and discipline, facilitates coordination between departments. We explored 3 types of control based on timing: feed-forward control, before the activity; concurrent control, during the activity; feedback control, after the activity. The control process involves 4 basic elements: establishing standards. Measuring performance. Comparing performance against standards. Taking corrective action. Finally, we learned about control systems at different organizational levels. Strategic control at top management level, dealing with broad, long-term decisions. Tactical control at middle management level, handling departmental implementation. Operational control at lower levels, managing day-to-day activities. Remember, effective control isn't about micromanaging. It's about ensuring the organization stays on track to achieve its goals while being flexible enough to adapt when needed. Thank you for watching.